Grain Elevator and Processing Society is hosting their annual Jeeps Exchange Conference at the Kansas City Convention Center, February 22nd through the 25th of 2025. Jeeps Exchange is the biggest and best show in the grain industry with more than 400 exhibitors and 45 hours of education. It is the best place to find grain handling and processing operation solutions all in one place. Jeeps Exchange brings together industry professionals from across the world to help build professional networks and connect with the products you need. Come walk the trade show floor, take part in live demonstrations, innovation stations, and see new equipment. Make valuable connections through a variety of fun and exciting social events. Early bird pricing ends January 28th. Learn more and register at jeeps.com/exchange. In this episode of Whole Grain, we connect you with two grain professionals who, along with their organization, have recently completed the construction of a state-of-the-art safety and training center. Now that they've had the opportunity to utilize a facility, they'll join us in a conversation as they reflect upon their decision to create such a resource for their organization and their community. If you have an existing training and safety facility at your organization and you want to hear how others are optimizing their facility, or if your organization is now considering constructing such a facility, this episode will arrive in your ears at just the right time. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to the show. My name is Jim Lenz, your host of Whole Grain and the Director of Global Training and Education at Jeeps, where the mission of the Grain Elevator and Processing Society is to champion, connect, and serve the global grain industry and our members. At Jeeps, we work to be the global community and thought leader for the grain industry, which feeds and fuels the world. Thanks for listening today and for joining the network of thousands of other grain handling and processing professionals across the globe taking strategic steps to grow professionally. The Whole Grain Show will give you the competitive advantage to win at work so you can make more of an impact. In this episode of Whole Grain, we're joined by John Brown and Scott Biel of MKC, Mid-Kansas Coop. MKC is one of the leading agricultural companies in Kansas. Their mission is to create customer, employee, and partner success to provide a safe and sustainable food supply. MKC is all about shared growth and shared success. MKC is a full-service farm cooperative offering a complete line of supplies and services for both farm and urban customers throughout Kansas. With a current membership of over 11,000 members, MKC specializes in grain, agronomy, energy, feed, and risk management. More than 600 employees play an important role in the growth and success of the cooperative. John and Scott share their insights on value derived from designing and constructing a state-of-the-art safety and training facility. We'll discuss the evolution of the project in terms of vision and the design process, the common training needs in the grain industry, how the training needs have evolved over the years, the challenges associated with training in the grain industry, the essential components of a modern training and safety facility, how the design of the facility impacts learners, and how a modern facility impacts the bottom line for companies in the grain industry. John Brown and Scott Biel also share pleasant surprises they found in terms of the unexpected uses of the facility, and they share advice for those organizations considering building a safety and training center of their own. All that and more coming up next. Today, we welcome Scott Biel, Director of Safety, and John Brown, Director of Facilities Management and Project Manager. Both of our guests today are employees of MKC, Mid-Kansas Co-op. Scott and John, welcome, and thanks for your participation in Whole Grain.
Thanks for having us, Jim.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Now, to allow our listeners to get to know you and start the show with a bit of positive spirit, could each of you share with our listeners a mantra or success quote that you live by professionally?
Yeah, I really like the quote, "It takes leadership to improve safety."
Nice.
I got two of them that kind of tie together. Practice makes permanent, not perfect. So take the time to get it right in the beginning.
Wonderful. I like that. Haven't heard that one in a while. Now, to provide some context for our Whole Grain listeners who are joining us today from all around the world, could you provide a brief overview of each of your roles at MKC and about Mid-Kansas Co-op as an organization? What role does it play in the grain handling and processing industry? What commodities are you dealing with? What is your organization's impact?
MKC is a full-service ag co-op, which means we handle grain, agronomy, feed energy and risk management services for our members. I'm the director of safety, so my job is to manage risk to our employees and MKC. I try to do that by training the trainer. I rely on our leaders to train their employees. I also do accident and near-miss investigations and work on ways to prevent future accidents. So I also work some with our insurance company to make sure we're managing risk appropriately. As far as the commodities, we handle wheat, corn, milo, soybeans, canola, sunflowers.
And my name is John Brown. I'm the Director of Facilities and Project Manager for MKC and Midwest Fertilizer, Producer Ag. I manage 7 internal millwrights, one which is a lead. We have 1 pressurized vessel expert. We have an energy technician and a master carpenter, so a very diversified group of very talented individuals. I also manage all the capital projects, which includes land acquisitions, project design, and I'm also the project manager for the duration of those projects and see them to a completed finish. Me and Scott both team up on hands-on training here, and we do all the tours for all the agricultural education groups, FFA, 4-H, and all of our internal training as well. So we wear many hats, but those are the hats we wear.
You certainly do, and they are important ones. So you're responsible for a lot of the health and safety of your organization. And just the type of individuals you'd love to have on our show to provide some perspective. And so we're going to be talking today about developing a safety and training center, which you recently have. But it was great to meet you in person just recently. We just concluded the 2023 Jeeps Exchange as this interview is being recorded. And I know you've been very involved with Jeeps and Jeeps Exchange in the past. You've had time to reflect now on the recent event. What did you think of Jeeps 2023? And for those listeners who have never attended Jeeps Exchange and are considering attending in 2024, what is your advice for them? What kinds of impact can Jeeps Exchange have on an individual level? And then how can Jeeps Exchange support them and their entire organization?
So I thought Exchange was great. To answer your first question, I'm on the education programming committee for the Exchange, and I thought there was a lot of great educational opportunities from maintenance to HR to safety and facility operations. So my advice is to attend the Exchange. The impact on the individual level is that you can make connections at the Exchange where you can bounce ideas off of people and learn new things from other people. You meet a lot of vendors, and a lot of them have solutions you may not know exist. So it's a chance to meet people and see what's out there. As far as our team supporting our organization by going to the Exchange, one responsibility we assign to our employees is that they attend the Exchange. They need to bring ideas back to the company. It could be something they learned in an education session. It could be a new person that they met that they're able to network with and learn from, or it could be a new product that we may potentially use at our facilities.
And John, what about you?
Jeeps Exchange is a must-attend event if you're in the agricultural industry. Why? I mean, the education, the networking, the knowledge at the expo is unmeasurable. I mean, there's so many resources to go around at the different booths, different education sessions, the breakout sessions. There's a lot of knowledge in that room, and if you just try to tap into it a little bit, you're going to walk away with a lot over a weekend. The exposure to the new safety concerns or existing safety concerns that they touch on, the Oklahoma State trailer that's there every year, and OSHA, the new OSHA regulations, new automation, or just innovative products that are new to the market. It doesn't take long when you walk in the expo. You know, you see a lot of familiar faces, but every year there's new products. It makes your job easier. It makes it safer. It saves time. And that's why we're there.
Safety is top of mind. That's very clear at Exchange. And I know it is, of course, with your organization, how you do things. But on the production side, no one's saying we like to process things slower and speed and efficiency is key. And so tools and technology, it's amazing what's out there. Now, Idea Exchange at Jeeps Exchange was a big hit. Small changes, big impact. And what's new. Those are two different kind of sectors. And folks had about, 5 minutes or so to kind of go across it after our keynote before we got into the big vendor hall and the education sessions. Scott, you had the chance to discuss how to build your own training center. The Idea Exchange, again, was well received. People very interested in that. Also, the program that you did together, where Scott, you were the facilitator of the discussion, and John, you were one of the panelists. It was a panel discussion on maintenance and reliability panel. Since we're just talking about Exchange now, can you provide a brief overview of key takeaways for those who were in attendance of that session?
Sure. It was a very well attended session. It was structured very well. I was partnered up with Craig and Jeremy from, I think, ADM and Cargill, two very knowledgeable guys. And the main conversation throughout the panel was computerized maintenance software. All of us on the panel were using it quite a bit, but we found out that the room wasn't. And we were trying to educate them on best practices and, how to manage it, and that it's not always the best software if you don't install it right. So we wanted to make sure that the onboarding was good. And that conversation could have went on for a half a day, but we only had an hour. So
we'll be back after a quick break.
Jeep's training and education program is proud to release Introduction to Grain Operations. This new course is a multimedia version of what was known as Jeep's 500, with dynamic graphics, video examples, photographs, multidimensional illustrations, animations, and interactive exercises. This course is sure to prepare your team for the work you need them to do. This is a great industry primer at a great price. For a limited time, Jeep's members may purchase the course for just $195. Non-members still save and pay just $295. For more information, visit Jeeps.com. That's great. And those who are members of Jeeps, you'll have access to this in the video library section of the Jeeps.com website. So very exciting. And a lot of people actually wanted to listen to that again. Plus, it's a great resource for connecting with individuals like yourself to continue that conversation. So we're talking today about designing, constructing, the use of a safety and training center. Some grain organizations have recently constructed a safety and training center. Many are considering doing so right now, or certainly in the near future. This episode of Whole Grain is focused on the role of safety and training facilities. Why it's exciting to have you on the show is because MKC has recently completed a construction and safety and training facility at one of your locations. And not only have you completed the construction, but the center has also been under tremendous use since it's open. So that's very exciting to hear. Let's start with a timeline for your center at MKC. When was the original vision for the center? And then what was the intended use at the time of that vision? What needs were you trying to fulfill in the building center? When did the vision, again, first take place? And when did you start looking at building plans? And when was construction complete? Provide just an early timeline of things.
Yeah, you bet. So the training center has actually been complete for almost 3 years, but the original concept started back in about 2012. We started doing some demolition of older elevators and some older feed mills, and we were running across some breaker panels and some components that we thought we could reuse that were some dangerous, some hazardous areas that we read a lot about, arc flash and bucket elevators. And we wanted to start saving some of these components, but we didn't know where we could store them at or where we could set them up at the train. So the idea kind of got started then. And throughout the years, I would talk to Eric Lang, our COO, and ask him, I think it's time we start putting some of this together. And we just couldn't find the right place for it. Well, we finally built a new elevator in Mount Ridge where a shed used to sit, and we had to relocate some storage space. And we converted at that time our new shed into what was a new learning center. And it's been a revolving idea. I mean, it keeps growing. I mean, every time we think that we're done building something new pops up, or we need to do DOT training and axles, and we just keep adding more and more value to it. And now we've outgrown the building. So now the next stage is, where can we add on? How can we add more value and still get more stuff under roof? And the larger we grow, the capacity is also a challenge now. So we're going to make it work.
Big picture wise, what was the importance of having a modern training facility for the grain industry for your organization? And then what are common training needs in the grain industry?
So I think the importance of having a modern training facility is it gives us the ability to train on potentially dangerous job tasks, but do it in a controlled and safe environment. And so that's really what we focus on when we decide what type of props or training we're going to build is what are the dangerous jobs in our industry and how can we do that training safely? As far as common training needs go in the grain industry, you can just look at OSHA's list of top 10 violations for the previous year, and that's what we need to focus on. So things that we specifically focus on at our facility that are on that list is fall protection. We've got a slope that we can simulate climbing a slope on a concrete bin. We've got ladders. As simple as climbing a ladder can be, it's one of those things that we need to focus on. Lockout tagouts on that list, personal protective equipment, machine guarding are all things that we can focus on here. And then another common training need that's not on that top 10 list of violations is preventing engulfment. It's something that impacts our industry, and something that we focus on here is preventing engulfment.
Yeah, that's a really good way to think about what you are going to do to support the safety and training needs of your employees. So critical. Grain dust explosions. You actually have a model for that, don't you?
Yes, we do. We have a model that simulates a straight up explosion out of the head house. And then on that same model, we also have a secondary explosion that would simulate a galleyway. It's a very unique model.
Wow, just incredible. And can you add, just generally speaking, how have these training needs evolved over the years, or how are you going to adapt as training needs evolve over time?
Strictly speaking, from the safety side, we do operations training here as well. But from the safety side, you look at the OSHA list of top 10 violations, it's the same thing every year. And there's still grain engulfments every year. So I think what needs to improve is the quality of training. So one thing I focus on is if I can train the trainer to be more effective at his location and give him the tools he needs, he'll be successful. So I focus on training managers to train their employees. And I think if we give leadership the ownership of safety at their locations, we'll get more buy-in for a safety program in general. And that's how training has evolved. Was it used to be the safety guy comes around and trains you and leaves, but now you've got a leader at the location who understands his facility and operates it every day, and he's got the tools he needs to be that trainer.
I'm just going to add a couple things. Recently, we've added 3 props. We added a truck axle for DOT training. We've added a grain grading station. Quality grain expert can train 5 people at once he shows a demonstration up on television. I know this is a grain call, but we just designed a 6-bay spray table for agronomy that talks about drifting chemicals and how spray heads work and proper PPE. And we cover every part of our business. I mean, all 4 different business models. So, and it all comes through great ideas and collaboration of our team.
That sounds fantastic, and it sounds very intentional. You talked about improving the quality of training and work around safety. Your organization is definitely committed to that. Are there any other challenges associated with training in the grain industry?
You know, speaking again from the safety perspective, leadership buy-in is a must. If you don't have buy-in from your leadership, your safety program is not going to go anywhere. And so John and I are fortunate to have a supervisor that gives us full ability to do our jobs as far as training goes. Some other challenges in the grain industry as far as training goes is when we're reacting to incidents instead of being proactive. We don't want to wait till there's an accident and then start doing training on how to prevent that accident. So being reactive instead of proactive is another challenge. And then finally, proper staffing of the safety department, making sure you have enough people to administer that safety program, but also giving them the freedom to do their job and have some type of accountability and authority with the employees.
Well, I'll just jump in there also on some of the challenges. You know, this is going a little bit different direction, but the culture change, getting people to buy in, even though you build a state-of-the-art training facility, that doesn't mean you're going to be safe tomorrow. And it really takes a lot of consistency. Like Scott mentioned, leadership buy-in, not just the guy that's, you know, helping us approve the vouchers, but to pay for this thing, but leadership, board, the administration. It takes years to change a culture. And when I came here years ago, this isn't the same culture that I walked into 12 years, 13 years ago. And it's been a consistent effort. And I'll tell you, it is a challenge when we merge other companies into MKC, there's a cultural challenge there. And this learning center really helps sell MKC as a safety committed company. When they see the investment we've made, they see the people that we have leading these charges with safety and training. So the commitment from upper management to make that cultural change over the last decade has been incredible.
Yeah, that culture change, to gain that support, to lead your organization in the future, doing it the right way, having the talents and the experience and the number of people to be able to pull it off is key. I think a lot of our listeners are going to appreciate your comments and use that when they have discussions about doing something similar. Now, what are the key factors to consider when designing a modern training facility for the grain industry? What do you believe are the essential components of a modern training facility, and how does the design of the facility impact the training experience for learners?
So my best advice to give when you're designing a training facility is start with a plan, what you want to put in there, and build it big enough for expansion, because our industry is constantly changing and there's new things that could come up where it may be beneficial to have a hands-on station. So build it big enough. As far as key components, if you do nothing else, I feel like you should do lockout, tagout, fall protection, and personal protective equipment. And you can go on and on from there. I would also suggest that our facilities become a meeting space too, that it's not just training. So consider a central location where if it's close to a bigger location that's centralized, you may be able to have meetings there and get more use out of the center, because we don't do safety training every single day. And so there's opportunities for other things to take place in this facility. And I guess the impact the training has for learners is when you're doing it in a controlled environment, it's fun. People like putting on the fall protection and using a rope grab, or they like checking out the man lift that we have and riding it and checking out the safety features. It's a clean environment. So I think our learners get a lot of value from being able to do this type of training in a controlled environment.
John, do you want to add anything to that?
I will add some of that. Some of the key factors when we were building this and designing this were safety, the hazards, some of the hazardous workplaces. We are real big on cross-training employees and working on operational efficiency, where somebody can actually do more than one task. They might work in an elevator full-time, but they can also load and deliver anhydrous, or work in the agronomy department, or load seed, or fix the fuel container. And then also maintenance. We do hands-on maintenance here, from bearing removal, belt splicing, inspecting man lifts. You name it, we have it here. And we try to make sure everybody can at least problem solve.
You can do some of those things without a training center, but having the training center, do it in a safe, controlled environment. Sounds like there's been positive feedback to that. That cross-training is a real, I think, important piece to this.
I think one of the key factors about having a safety center is it's being taught by the same people every time. There's a consistency with how the knowledge is being spread. Same teachers. And we're using a lot of our own internal experts. We might have a person that's really taken infrared imaging or thermal imaging to the next level internally, just on their own. They've taken it, they've ran with it. What a great person to bring in for our IR instruction and to lead that instruction, because they're passionate about that. And they've went over and above. So we reward them by letting them instruct a class during hands-on training.
Oh, that's great. Those who are doing the training and those who are working in the organization, they're enthusiastic. They kind of grow in their own personal and professional development. And here you have an opportunity and a place to expand on that and share their knowledge with others. So neat to hear. Now, from your perspective, how does a modern training facility impact the bottom line for companies in the grain industry?
So our training facility, we invite our insurance carrier to do our annual renewal here at the facility. And so they can see firsthand that we're not a company that just says safety is number one. We invest in it and we take it seriously. So showing them that, it's a serious deal is helpful. It doesn't impact the bottom line. We don't get an insurance rebate or anything like that. But the challenge with safety is that you never really know when something you did prevented an accident. And so I guess the way I look at it is by providing quality training to our employees, we're having fewer accidents and injuries. So that affects the bottom line for our insurance costs by not allowing them to rise. Operationally, though, better trained employees are more efficient employees. And John spoke to our grain grading station, and those people who operate grain facilities know that that's where you make your money, is knowing what you have when it comes in the elevator and knowing what you're shipping out and avoiding discounts. And so that would be an impact to the bottom line.
By the way, that's a great set of responses. That's fantastic. Thank you, Scott.
I would say that Scott's right on with the insurance savings, but I think there's also some bottom line returns when word of mouth spreads about what we're doing. People refer friends to work at MKC. We get great people to work for us who are safer, who make less mistakes, and the return might not show up day one, but the mod rate might change, or the mistakes or the mixed grain might stop happening because we have recruited people who want to work with their friends in a safe environment, go home with their families every night. That's the big return on the bottom line I see also with insurance savings and other things.
Yeah, both of you just listed like 5 things there for, people ask, what's the return on the investment for building, constructing a safety and training center? I mean, right there, that is pure gold for consideration. Great perspective. You've done it. Been great success for you, and it's going to continue to be in the future. But boy, right now, when we talk about being short on employees, when you can, in the interview process or even before the interview process, share from whether it's your website or other channels, if you can show what you're doing, what does that tell the prospective future employee of your organization? My organization cares about me so much that they're willing to invest in me. They're willing to invest in my training. They're willing to invest in my safety. So that is just a nice added perspective that maybe others are not considering. It's very competitive market that we have for employees. Well done. Your organization is definitely committed to safety and training. So great. Now, curious, what has the feedback been like from the users of the facility? Are you receiving strong support internally because you had this vision, you executed the vision? So from all all for different parties that are involved with this directly or indirectly, what's been the support been like?
Our people love it. They want to use the facility for, just their team. They'll bring in just their team and focus on what they need to focus on. Sometimes it gets hard to schedule a date for John or I to even use this facility. The calendar fills up so fast, and it could be a manager wants to bring his local FFA in and show off the facility, or a manager wants to just focus on bin entry with his people, and it gets a lot of use, and it's good feedback across the board as far as I know.
Some of the consistent feedback we get from visitors outside of MKC, because once you're inside of MKC, it's just like, yeah, we got a learning center. It's pretty cool. But when you bring in 65 young professionals across the world from Land O'Lakes, and they are blown away, mouth dropping, questions, and you have other large grain industry leaders in the world wanting to come tour this because they've seen LinkedIn comments or posts made. It's very humbling what we've built here, but the overall receiving message from our board of directors, from our leadership, is they're very proud of this facility, and other organizations want to know how they can build one just like it.
Out of all the different ideas that we've come up with and implemented, we've never been told no by our senior leadership or our board. In fact, our board of directors meets here once a month in person. They use the main conference room to have their board meetings. And so they see every once a month what the new things are, and they're very supportive of us.
That is so fantastic to hear. Great use of it. Obviously, from what you're saying, it sounds like you had a vision for the use of this. You're executing on this. You're looking at technological changes and different equipment you can bring in to help train, but there's also other things maybe you didn't think about, such as FFA, having your board meeting there. I think you responded that you even have like a kitchen area, which is, great because people can be there for an extended period of time. It's just a great convenience for when people are visiting. What's your big picture advice then for people who are considering this?
So my advice is, like I've said multiple times here today, build it big enough. It doesn't need to be a new building. If you've got an old warehouse that you can utilize a portion of, that works too. So build it big enough, poll your leaders, ask them what would be helpful for us to implement here that would help you at your location and your employees. Just like the building, any equipment or props that you put in that place doesn't have to be new. Like John said, we were going to use an old feed leg. You can use used equipment, and if you were going to scrap it anyways, you might as well use it for a training prop. Last piece of advice I have is reach out to your vendors who are probably members of Jeeps as well. Ask them if they have any ideas, or would they be willing to participate in helping you construct a facility like ours. We've leaned heavily on our vendors, and they've been outstanding.
Think big and bring in a team of experts to help collaborate and build this building, because, you know, you're going to have all kinds of different ideas. And if you get tunnel vision, it's pretty easy to just build a small building and not do everything you need in there. Bring in a group of 5 or 6 people or more of leaders that are experts, and get all your ideas and put them on paper. We actually had a blueprint drawn up of where we were going to put each training device before we built the building. And boy, things have changed since then.
Great feedback. Thank you so much. We are so happy that each of you are Jeeps members. With that being said, I'd like to start a sentence, and I'd love for you to conclude the sentence. Being part of the Jeeps family means
I have a group of peers that I can reach out to and bounce ideas off of.
Great. Scott, thanks. And John?
And I stole mine, but being part of the Jeeps family means I'm a part of a large community of very valuable resources with industry experts that strive to achieve a similar goal.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for serving as guests on Whole Grain. It's been an honor and a pleasure to connect with you. Thank you for spending some time with Whole Grain listeners.
Thanks for having us, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
We thank our guests, John Brown and Scott Biel, for sharing insights in the outcome of the MKC Training and Safety Center. Congratulations to you both and your organization and your community. What a special resource for everybody. And we especially thank you for joining us today. We are appreciative of your time and dedication to your personal professional development. Thanks for choosing Whole Grain. The Whole Grain Show is a great way to take learning on the go. Remember, this episode in the show is very easy to share with others. We encourage you to do so. Tell others about the show as we work to support grain professionals like you. Whole Grain is super easy to find. The Whole Grain podcast can be found on your favorite podcast apps such as Apple Podcasts, Pandora, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, and more. Do a search for Whole Grain. Hit the subscribe button. That way every show is downloaded to your device as soon as it is released, and you can quickly catch up on past episodes as well. You can also connect with the show on the Jeeps website through jeeps.com/Whole Grain. Access audio player, review the show notes and links, and access the transcript. We already have listeners from 39 countries at the time of this recording. If you find value in the show, please give us a 5-star rating and leave a comment. That really supports what we do and helps people discover the show more easily. The Whole Grain Show is a production of Jeeps, the Grain Elevator and Processing Society. The Grain Elevator and Processing Society is the largest organization dedicated to advancing the grain handling and processing industry. Be sure to check out jeeps.com, GEAPS.com. If you and your organization want to sponsor an episode and be a featured guest on The Whole Grain Show, or if you are interested in us producing audio ads to support your product or service, we can help you with that. Please reach out to me, Jim Lenz, Director of Global Training and Education. My email is james@jeeps.com. Have yourself a great day, and thanks for listening to Whole Grain.